right. We'll call to order the special meeting between the Gates County Board of Commissioners and the Gates County Board of Education. My name is Emily Truman. I'm chairman of the Gates County Board of Commissioners. Joining us, we have Commissioner Berryman, Commissioner Craddock, Commissioner Roundtree, Commissioner Forsyth, County Manager Sauer, and our clerk to the board. I'm going to turn it over to the Board of Education for their calling to order and introductions.
Okay. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Dr. Barry Williams, Sally Ryan, Ray Felton, Terry Riddick, Leslie Bear, Reverend Ronnie Riddick is not here today because he is out of town.
All right, the next we have is the approval of the agenda. I would like to just ask on our part if we could add in the prayer and pledge for opening after the approval of the agenda before we go into budget discussions. So if I'll make a motion for that.
Yeah,
Second, okay. And all in favor this side? All right, thank you. No were opposed, so that approved to add the prayer and pledge after the approval of the agenda. And turn it back over to the school board for theirs.
All those in favor of the agenda that we will be using today, which is discussion of the budget for the 25-26 year. I need a motion for approval.
Madam Chair, I make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, likewise. The agenda passes.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Roundtree, I ask you to lead us in the prayer and pledge.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we thank you, Lord, for the gathering of the two boards, Lord, that we may go forward on a budget. We ask you, Lord, to give us wisdom. And Lord, we thank you that you give us wisdom liberally and you're upbraideth not. Help us, Lord, to discuss, strategize, and do what's right for Gates County and all of our citizens and constituents. We thank you, Lord, for a successful meeting. We thank you for doing business diligently. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So we will move into the budget discussion for fiscal year 25-26. It says in any related financial items of concern. I think going forward it would be most appropriate to turn it over to you all to present this. Yes, ma'am.
Well, Williams is going to be passing out a much smaller version of our budget to you. And once he finishes with that, we're going to turn it over to Dr. Williams. And then it will go to each director who's asking you for something. And I was thinking about it coming. Would you rather hold your questions to the end, or would you rather ask the person who is explaining to you about the budget request?
I think, at the end will be fine.
Okay. Just want to be sure.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Excuse me.
Good evening, County Commissioners, Madam Chair, Board of Education, audience members here at the Historical Courthouse. I will begin with an update on our consolidation study. The consolidation study is a multifaceted process, as is a consolidation process. Dr. Jim Watson has visited the school district 4 times. He's interviewed and he's received information from principals, department chairs, and directors. He will be returning to the school district in June to continue his work. On May the 14th, my administrative team and I presented our budget to the Board of Education. The budget was not approved on that date, and we were unable to present to the commissioners in April. A work session was held on May 5th to discuss our budget. On May 13th, the updated budget was presented to the Board of Education and was approved by the Board of Education. To meet the state submission deadline of May 15th, our budget proposal was presented on May 14th in person to the county manager along with an emailed copy. Again, this was submitted in the manner to meet the state submission deadline. So we are here tonight to share the Board of Education's approved budget. And now for our budget presentation, I'd like for my Chief Financial Officer, Mr. Stephen Harrell, to please come to the podium.
Good evening, board members, commissioners, Dr. Williams. I'm first going to talk about, in our presentation today, is our grant funding for the past decade. A lot of school districts have periodically got grants to build schools or make improvements, but very few in the state have had a superintendent that has amassed the amount of grant funding that Gates County Schools has. And I'll briefly go through the list that is in front of you today. Back in 2014, we received $110,000 in increased teacher supplements with that. And I'll go down the list. Central Middle School's funding for the building of the school was $10.5 million. The high school project that is ongoing is $9.8 million. Gatesville Elementary School's project amounted to $1.7 million, and T.S. Cooper and Buckland, that are currently in the beginning stages, are $2.9 million and $1.7 million in grant funding. We also received an extra $1 million of funding for the high school that is currently ongoing. We also receive SRO grants annually. Mr. Wright's received $88,000 for that, and the safety grant in the amount of $60,000 as well. Tennis courts and athletic fields, $60,000 and $15,000, and Mr. Smith receives E-rate funding for a total of $230,000, which helps with telecommunications over the years. High School Fitness Center grant was $200,000. We also received a grant for the Science and the Navy program, which amassed to be $400,000. And annually, we receive medical services grants of $80,000 for nurses. This total amount for all of these grants is right up under $30 million. That number sometimes is one of those numbers that will shoot right over your head because it is such a big number. But I did say $30 million. And if we could use everything that we needed to out of that money, it would probably be a lot better situation financially than we currently have, but we cannot. On your next page, you'll see what we cannot use out of lottery funding money. Real property acquisitions, mobile or modular classroom purchases. These are all prohibited. Purchases of computers, which we desperately need. Mr. Smith and I, with lottery funding, were able to acquire smart TV panel TVs for every classroom in the county, simply because it bolted to a wall. But they would not let us buy one computer. And every one of his computers, Mr. Smith's computers, is probably a 10-year-old device at least. And the last thing is probably one of the most important things we can't use lottery funding money for. School campus features such as roads, parking lots, playgrounds, tennis courts, athletic fields, and lighting, bleachers and grandstands, etc. All of those things that are critical infrastructure needs for every school district in the state, we cannot use lottery funding for. Next on my list today on the presentation is personnel. Dr. Jordan will go over personnel. next.
Good afternoon. For the personnel, the first page you'll see is the projected personnel vacancies or instructional vacancies for the 25-26 school year. This information is obtained through letters of intent that we share with employees late January, early February, just to kind of get an idea of what staff plans are for the upcoming school year. Based on that information, we were projected to have the following vacancies at our elementary schools. We're looking at 5 K-5 teacher positions. At Central Middle School, a CTE position, 2 core content areas, and similar positions at the high school as well. Again, and we know these things change throughout the year as staffing changes, as employees, make decisions to come, to stay, to leave, but these numbers do, or these positions do change throughout the year. And we also have employees that may come up and decide to retire, which may cause our numbers to fluctuate as well. The next page is K-12 additional personnel instructional requests. This information, or these requests, come directly from the principals to list or document the needs that they have to supplement the instruction and student services or support services in their buildings. So as you see, the request there for our elementary, our middle, and our high school, again, these come from conversations with those that are leading our schools and our buildings that know what our students need to be successful in, continuing to be successful in the upcoming school year. And next, Ms. Casper will highlight on some of these needs and go in more in depth of how they support our students and our schools each and every day.
Good evening, County Commissioners, board members, and guests. On behalf of Dr. Williams and his executive cabinet, I've been tasked with presenting the superintendent's additional funding request for the 2025-26 school year. We are requesting an increase in the investment provided to our consumer, the 1,376 young scholars enrolled in Gates County schools. North Carolina now has a state requirement that all students in grades 6 through 12 receive a minimum of 1 arts education course prior to graduation. This requirement goes into effect with the incoming freshman class at Gates County High School. Currently, all of our arts teachers are shared between our middle and our high school. So if this situation continues, we are unable to effectively meet the needs of students who wish to pursue honors level credit in those courses at the high school as they advance into junior and senior year in those disciplines. They do receive honors credit. We also lack the ability to showcase their talents in public performances. We are also requesting that funding for an elementary arts position be reinstated. Art education enhances creativity and a love for learning, and it boosts self-confidence and contributes to successful academic performance. To provide additional instructional support for our high school teachers, administrators, and students, we are requesting funding to provide a full-time testing coordinator for the high school. That position is essential because testing at the high school is extensive and is currently done by an AP. With that situation, that prevents that AP from being able to focus as much as they would like to on the 2 priorities we have as a school system: safety for our students and instructional support for our teachers, leading to better outcomes for our students. We are also requesting funding to increase the supplements of both teachers and classified staff, as well as to utilize money for recruitment and retention of teachers. Both groups have tremendous impact on positive student success. We want the ability to keep the innovative and dedicated staff members we currently employ and the ability to attract the best talent to our district to build thriving school communities where teachers are supported, valued, and empowered with manageable workloads. As you know, our district this year was designated as a low-performing district for the first time. Our faculties and staff have not taken that lightly and have worked diligently to change that status when testing scores are finalized. However, those individuals need and deserve additional supports to support the work they do. We have identified the following needs: the provision of reading support coaches at all of our elementary schools to help our students meet state proficiency standards, which is set at 80%. Reading support coaches will help all content area teachers deliver high-quality literacy instruction. The provision of 2 additional support coaches to be provided to 2 schools to assist teachers in developing their teacher toolkit. Data will show us which schools these positions need to be given for targeted support. And those coaches will work with teachers to ensure a focus on evidence-based practices. We also have identified the purchase of English and math curriculum for our middle and high schools. Most of these teachers are charged with developing their own curriculum because we receive less than $60,000 per year from state funding to purchase curriculum. I'll say that again, $60,000 from the state to purchase curriculum for K-12. That leads us to having to make some really tough choices. The funding that we have is used to support our elementary teachers, but investing in English and math curriculums at CMS and GCH will provide our teachers with high-quality, standards-aligned instructional materials to ensure consistency and rigor. We are asking for the position of 2 director positions in order to target assistance to specific areas of need. A director of secondary education will support CMS and GCHS with instructional priorities, curriculum, and professional development to ensure increases in student achievement, allowing the same focus at the elementary level by the other curriculum director. A director of special populations will oversee support for a wide range of student needs, including our students enrolled in community college, those designated as homeless, or students taking North Carolina virtual public school courses. Additionally, they will oversee the implementation of a multi-tiered system of supports, which ensures that interventions, accommodations, and resources are effectively coordinated to meet diverse academic and behavioral needs. Funding for high-dosage tutoring that focuses on our students with the largest achievement gaps is also needed. We currently provide all tutoring through federal funding during the day using retired teachers, but that limits us to being able to start tutoring in the spring. We need fall implementation of tutoring for the best outcomes. Funding for transition academies during the summer is also needed to introduce kindergarten students as well as rising 6th and 9th graders to their new school and the more rigorous expectations set for them as they progress. Mr. Wright and other directors will follow me to explain more of the funding request. Please know that we understand the needs are substantial. However, our scholars and faculties are worthy of these supports to establish the best environment for the success and well-being of each and every student. Strategic investments in leadership and support services are essential to creating opportunities for every learner to thrive. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. So as Ms. Casper mentioned, my section has to do with our school health personnel. Like Mr. Harrell said when he first came up, for several years we have been very successful in receiving grant funding for equipment and to help with our SROs in our school system. But I need more help. I need school health personnel. What I'm requesting is 2 additional nurses and a school counselor at CMS. Each and every year we come across more health issues of our students. We have more mental, emotional concerns, and that's across the state, not just here in Gates County, but actually across the country. The 2 school nurses would allow me to have a school nurse at every school, which would give us the opportunity to cover anything that would happen during that day, or to help our babies that may have health concerns such as diabetes. Right now, when a nurse is not there and may be at a different location, the only option we have is to train a first responder to do those things, which is not really fair to the first responder, it's not really fair to the child, and it's not really fair to the school system. So with having somebody there full-time, we do not have to worry about training somebody to do that and put somebody in that position to have to count carbs, to have to give insulin. The school counselor at CMS, the American Council Association will tell you that you should have 1 per 250 students. CMS, we know, has a lot more than that. So Miss Barbara Austin does everything she can. She works very extremely hard to cover all the students that she has. But to be able to put another counselor in there would help us tremendously at the middle school. We currently do everything possible we can with Trillium and Integrated Family Services. We have school-based therapy where a therapist comes into our schools, but they're almost at their limit, meaning it's very difficult to get another referral in because of how many students we have in our schools that need that support. So that is why I'm requesting the additional school health personnel.
Now, as our ADM declines, changes in the future may occur based upon personnel decisions, state, federal funding, enrollment, employee benefits, packages, etc. I'm going to start with my local budget first. Before I start that, I've heard when everyone's talking about the $828,000 at the county. Before I arrived, gave or allotted to the school system. I want the commissioners to know that money hasn't been touched yet. On page 6, I put that chart in there specifically for anybody who wanted to. This is in my other booklet, the main one. It's the fund balance without and with support. You can see in the year 22-23, you can see that what our fund balance was at the end of that 22-23 year. We were sitting at $188,000 with a projected budget shortfall of $500,000. So when the county appropriated $828,000 on page 6, $828,000, it pushed our budget obviously up to where we actually added $70,157 to fund balance. My first year, obviously when I come in, I realize things are where they're headed. So with the help of all the directors, Dr. Jordan and I, we tried to restructure and squeeze as much out of what we had and make do with what we had. And we were able the first year to put $327,000 back in the fund balance, which raised our fund balance to $1.328 million. So that leaves us this year going forward. Now, I've never dipped in the fund balance. This year I will dip in the fund balance, but it will not be to the point where we have touched that 828 yet. But going in that direction as a finance officer is a no-go. So my board has already been made aware of where we're headed and where we don't want to be and what we need to do. So going forward with the additional needs request, in the book that you have, the larger book, I highlighted everything in green as a line item, just in case the commissioners saw something that would be easy to spot and where it was put on the ledger, in case funding was available to fund that particular item. Yes, $2.845 million is a lot of money. But education, obviously, is a cliche, it's not cheap. And when you're losing students, we represent $10,000 a child. We've lost 55 this year, and we're slated to be at, I believe, 1373 is our ADM planning for this current year. So the number $5.833 million is comprised of $2.845 $4.5 million that the additional request would be, the $2.953 million that we get traditionally, and the $35,000 of fund balance that we normally budget every year as well. And just like the previous years, my first chart is a departmental breakdown of that local funding. My next slide would be a history of Gates County's allotment for the school system. And do not get me wrong, we appreciate everything that the county does, and we do understand the limitations of allotments to the school system. That is absolutely something that we're all aware of. But our funding has been level and has been flat for a long time. My next chart is a pie chart of the same budget, but it's broken down into a DPI auditor format, which is what I have to provide to the LGC to make sure that our audits are clear. The next budget would be capital outlay. Traditionally, we have asked for $200,000 a year, and we greatly appreciate that. But this year, we're asking for $400,000, and later, Mr. Smith and Mr. Green will elaborate on the extra $200,000. But the technology needs that we are in dire need of would make up the biggest part of that $200,000. So we're asking for $400,000 in capital outlay. Now for budgets that are shrinking, the state budget. As I said before, we are down to planning for $1373 for our ADM this coming 25-26 year. And our state budget is again reduced to roughly $15,289,818. The state budget reflects increases from the 24-25 appropriation as a result of anticipated state increases for employee salaries and benefits. Anticipated increases of costs of business expenses, including insurance and operating deficits due to federal and state funding reductions. State increases for employee salaries and benefits are attributable to the anticipated legislative activities within North Carolina General Assembly. And the total includes an estimated, now these are all estimated planning costs, 3% increase in salaries. It probably would be less than that when it's all said and done. The state retirement, which probably will not be until October when they have an official budget, will range between 24.04 and 25.02. An estimated state employees' health insurance contribution will be $8,094 between to that to $8,565. That is a broad range, but it seems like the past history says that they've gone up every year for quite a while. And if they fluctuate at all, it's not ever down. Those official numbers will be out by October when we do our actual budget resolution. So before you, I just needed the commissioners to know this is a planning resolution. The actual budget resolution will be what the county allots plus what the state budget is. And that usually, if I'm very lucky, will happen in October. I have waited till February for that state budget to come through, so that doesn't make it easy on anybody. The next chart is the declining ADM chart that you're looking at. There is a 20-year chart out there, but that basically is doing the same thing as what you see in front of you. It is going down the wrong way. We do need to get kids back in our schools. And one other chart I'm showing here related ADM positions to state allotments. This chart here shows you how the state-funded PRC1 allotment trickles down as your ADM goes down. My next budget is my federal budget, which consists of grant funding and previous ESSER funds. Last year we had ESSER funds, so this year they're not there, so the budget is substantially less. My federal budget is at $913,446 for the current coming year. My local Fund 8, which is comprised of pre-K, Medicaid, and other grant funding, is up a little bit this year because of the additional grants we have received, and money's not being spent quite yet that can be carried over at $1,333,498. Child nutrition follows. Child nutrition has been stable with $1,600,100 for the past few years. And last but not least, my daycare budget. My daycare budget, just like child nutrition, operates on a revenue expense model. And this year has been a struggle with my daycare budget. We're constantly trying to come up with ways to raise new revenue. And we're finding solutions, but it's a work in progress. But our budget is $342,900 for the coming year. Now, as I said before, Mr. Smith and Mr. Green are next, and they will address some capital outlay needs that we are in dire need of going forward for the next school year.
Good afternoon. I wanted to start by briefly discussing some of the grant funding that you've seen going on in the county over the last several years, the needs-based public school capital fund grants. As you see, as Mr. Harrell mentioned earlier, Gatesville Elementary School was the first grant awarded, then Gates County High School. In 2023, as you rode through the community, you probably saw a new roof getting put on the 1950s portion of Gatesville Elementary School. There was also plumbing upgrades inside of the school. At the high school that year, you saw a lot of roofing going on as well. The roof on the 1991 PAC building was replaced. The 70s Art and Data Center roof was replaced, as well as the original 1962 roof on the gymnasium. Last summer, as you rode through the county, you probably saw major site renovations at the high school for the new addition out front there. The new addition is being used to replace the 7 mobile units that are currently behind the school, 1990s mobile units. Also at Gatesville Elementary School, that roof was replaced along with mechanical upgrades for that gymnasium. This summer, as you ride through the county, it will look, you'll see at 3 different campuses, major renovations. At the high school, you'll see 1962 windows being removed from the building. There's major mechanical upgrades. The 1991 mechanical systems at the high school are now about 34 years old. As those systems are updated, they'll be updated throughout the summer, as well as the PAC, which is a 1991 building. New addition will continue on, hopefully finishing in the fall, so we can move out of the mobile units, or transition out of the mobile units in the backyard. At T.S. Cooper Elementary School, you'll see those 1950s windows getting removed this summer. Very excited about that. The roof is being replaced as well in that 1950s portion of the building, which they call the Blue Hall, as well as some mechanical upgrades. At Buckland Elementary School, there again, major renovations. The 1950s windows are being removed. Roof replacement there as well. HVAC upgrades there. All the HVAC was pretty much installed in the county back in 1998, so a lot of that equipment is now 27 years old in different portions of the county. There again, some of that equipment's getting replaced at Buckland and at T.S. Cooper. Gatesville Elementary this summer, we have window replacements of some of the original 1950s windows on the end of the building that houses daycare, as well as pre-K, and also HVAC upgrades within the building. The renovations and roof replacements will significantly improve the thermal envelope, reducing the cost to heat and cool the buildings. All the projects are funded by the needs-based public school capital fund grants with no additional cost to Gates County. After renovations are completed, other critical facility needs will be HVAC replacements for some of the 1998 at building Gatesville Elementary School, the geothermal system there, as well as the middle school. As we move forward with these projects, there are some repair and renovation funds available, as you all well know. The repair and renovation funds will not cover certain things such as parking lots, as Mr. Harold mentioned earlier, as well as Chromebooks, as Mr. Smith is going to touch on. I just wanted to make you all aware as well, the $200,000 that we currently receive for capital outlay typically is used to help us make it throughout the school year for unforeseen, unknown problems that occur with older equipment, older buildings. There's things that come up, on a regular basis that we're not aware of, but those funds are used each year to help address that. So Mr. Smith's going to speak on the additional $200,000 that we're requesting this year. He and I shared that $200,000 for information technology and maintenance, but he's going to mention or talk on the additional $200,000 requested.
Good afternoon. We are, as Mr. Green and Mr. Harrell said, we're asking for an additional $200,000, and that'll be mainly split between two things. One is computer labs at the elementary, actually at all 5 schools. Is one at each elementary school, one at the middle and one at the high, so 5 labs total. And they're, 13, 14 years old. We have upgraded both memory, repaired, upgraded operating systems, done about everything we can do up to this point. And as of this past year, they're updated as high as they can go. We can't do anything else. So as new operating systems and new applications come out, they're just not going to be supported. So I think we've done really well getting that much life out of them. But anyway, so we're asking about $187,005 of that would be for labs, 1 lab at each school. And the lab is usually 24 student computers and then 1 teacher system, okay, just, for reference. And then the remainder of that money would be used to replenish Chromebooks. Chromebooks we kind of got into them we had done a little bit before COVID, but of course COVID kind of forced us to, with some of the remote learning, to go purchase a lot more of those. And of course Chromebooks are, like a lot of things, they're really good, but they don't hold up like a traditional, desktop or laptop would. And so we're grateful that we have, that the manufacturer has, or Google really has offered 10 years of support. It used to be only 5, but that's 10 now. So that helps out a lot. But of course, then you've got the wear and tear, daily wear and tear of them. And so if you get a Chromebook 10 years, you're doing good, if we can get them that long. But a lot of them, we're not going to be able to get that long. But we do repair them in-house. We have, my team repairs them, and we're making do with them. But, we need to replenish a few each year just to kind of keep that going too. With, online testing, Ms. Rantry does a lot of, all the testing now is done online. So we utilize the Chromebooks. We also have some Dell labs for the vocational department we use, and also, or CTE department. And also, those same labs. So with those labs getting age on them, we don't know how much longer they'll even support the NC test, which is the app we use. Thank you.
The next few slides are in front of you are a recurring theme of mine since I've been doing this job. The potential risks that we face every year budgeting are charter schools enrollment going up, or reducing ADM, out-of-district transfers, or EC expenditures, retirement hospitalization rate increases, and utility rate increases. Future planning, how do we adjust for that to try to make ends meet? Well, we have transitioned to our payroll department paying only once a month. That has helped us administratively and financially. With a 3.5-person department, it makes our job where we can actually function at a higher level on paying once a month. Being proactive and adapting to a decreasing ADM. What does that mean? Well, my budget has got to a point where we have had to have a consolidation study by Dr. Watson, possibly for having one too many elementary schools. That study will come out at the end of August, 1st of September, and Dr. Watson will lead us in that way, and options will be presented to the Board of Education at that time. Reducing positions through attrition, retirement, resignations. Containing rising EC costs for future budgeting planning cycles. And I need to let the commissioners know that on the EC funding cycle, unless the state comes up with a weighted model, which they've been talking about for 2 years now, they only fund the school system at 13%. We're currently over 18% on our EC expenditures. So anything that they don't fund obviously has to be paid from somewhere else. The state contributes about 2/3 of the Department of Public Education's overall spending. Counties contribute about a quarter, though some counties give significantly more than others. The sources for each individual school district's budget varies based on how many local tax dollars the district receives and allocates to the school district. And I need the commissioners to understand that in the additional needs request, even though it is a substantial amount, any additional need that will be funded or allocated to the school system will be appreciated by the board, Dr. Williams, and myself. Thank you.
So in closing, we hope that you will consider our budget request. And again, we do not want to place any burden on the citizens of Gates County. It is simply our intent to show the programs and the services that we would like to have to support the best for our students, staff of Gates County. Now, Ms. Casper talked about the best outcomes. She talked about the best services. We want our students to have the confidence when they graduate to be the best. And in closing, I'd just like to say this. In October the 26th, I believe 1967, at Barrett Junior High School, there's a guy who said, "There's a gentleman at the green stamp store in Montgomery, Alabama, that I will only let shine my shoes." And the reason I do that is because the great feeling he gets when I tell him he did a good job, and because he takes pride in his craft. And he went on to say, if you want to be a street sweeper, be the best street sweeper in the world. Sweep the streets like Michelangelo painted the Sistine Chapel, like Shakespeare wrote poetry. Post a sign in your yard that says, you're the best street sweeper in the world. And that's what we're preparing our students to be the best, to do your best in whatever they choose to do when they graduate. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So I guess we'll go, does the school board have anything they wanted to add to that before we got into questions from the commissioners? No? Okay. All right, so we are going to go down, I think I saw the majority of us jotting down questions as we went along. Just want to start by saying we are very appreciative at the beginning of the presentation for the different grants, those kind of things that have come in for the past, we were saying 10 years were outlined here. Nobody can discredit that at all. It's not trying to discredit grants that have come in. That's incredible. We're here to work on a working budget for now and for this coming year. And so these questions are going to be directed for this coming year, because regardless of where we were at in the past, we're here now. We have the funds that we have. We're in a revaluation year, which many think is the opportunity to take advantage of funds and increase requests. And I'm not saying that's what the school board has done, but that's what the county is perceiving in many areas. And I will say that, and they're welcome to speak out differently if they would like to, but the board and I feel are all on the same page of trying to stay revenue neutral for our citizens. In doing that, we're going to be very cognizant of what each penny is worth as we go through the budget process. And so I'm going to begin to my right with Commissioner Berryman, unless he is not prepared quite yet because he's scrolling.
No, I'm good.
Okay.
As of the fiscal year 2023-2024, what was the what was the AMD funding for Gates County as far as how much money Gates County funded per pupil?
Currently, Commissioner Beverly, we are sitting at just over $10,000. So 2 years ago, that funding was right up under $10,000 per pupil on the state side. The exact number, I do not have that in front of me right at this time, but I can get that for you if you need it.
As far as what the county's part of, we funded 2.953.
We have 2.953 for 3 years in a row.
That's right. But how much as far as per ADM does that break down to?
About $2,100.
Okay, all right. And so your ADM currently is sitting at 1373?
Right now, we're sitting at 1411 this year, and 1373 is projected for next year, yes, sir.
Okay. All right, and I'm hearing you right as far as when I went through and kind of scrolling looking for numbers, but you're asking for an additional $130,000 for the lunch and breakfast program to feed the kids that are coming in?
Yes, sir, that would be greatly appreciated. And that number may fluctuate within $20,000 and $30,000 each year, but I believe that number right there was this year, right up under 130, 129, I believe.
Mm-hmm. And the IT needs for the Chromebooks is $200,000. Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, sir, that is correct.
And the additional EC funding that you need is 150, correct?
That is
Okay. What other cost-saving measures has the school system gone through? You have $15 million coming from the state to operate the school system. What other cost-saving measures has the school board and the school itself done?
When I first arrived, we took the EC expenditures. We were contracting a lot of our services out to companies that had Wall Street names. And that's just what they did. I mean, that was the services they provided, but they were extremely high contractor services. And Dr. Jordan and I, we sat down and trying to figure out how in the classroom we could manage some of our classrooms on the EC side without having the contractor services involved. And the first year, we cut about $250,000 from that budget. That is it is a moving target when it comes to EC costs. Because I could have one child that might cost me $10,000, like what the state wants, and then by chance I could have one child that might go to Plan B, which costs me $60,000. From a financial budgeting standpoint, it's impossible to budget for that. And the state keeps saying they want to make up some type of weighted model for districts who have more of those expenses than other districts, but we've yet to see it.
But as far as from last budget to this budget?
But I've cut everything in my local budget that wasn't a requirement. The school systems they're using supply money that I use in my state fund, but right now, because of the expenditures that we're trying to make up the difference in local money, all the money that the school used to get, the small little pots of money, they do not get anymore on my side. Until we can get to a situation where we have a budget that is allowing for building, so to speak, it's a survival method, what we're doing right now.
So what I'm hearing is there has been no spending cuts.
Well, there has been spending cuts. That's what you are hearing, yes, sir.
All right, so then tell me
this year going forward, we're taking 3 teachers that out of 6 teachers, we're only replacing 3 of them. So everywhere you look, we are trying to reduce spending. But right now, with mandates like we have had in the K-3 category, when a classroom gets over a certain population, by law, you have to have a teacher in that classroom.
And I understand there are certain mandates that everybody here has to deal with. I mean, Mr. Sauer has been educating me those on the county side that he has to deal with every day, so I can appreciate everything that y'all have to deal with on the school board side as I continue to learn mine. But as far as overhead staff, funding within the school system, within that, has there's been any changes to that whatsoever?
Well, that, from my point of view, I'm always questioning everybody every time a job vacancy becomes up, and we sit down and we talk about it, because until funding becomes back where it needs to be, in line with our buildings, everything that is spent has to be questioned. And no, I don't get any accolades for saying no all the time.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm just as conservative as anybody sitting in this room. And at the same time, I want to tell everybody, yes, let's go for it. But that's not the real world that I live in.
Yeah.
So until we get things back with more funding from the state possibly, or like I said before, we get our buildings aligned with what we have as far as our ADM, I'm basically going to be talking about.
As far as, and I asked this question earlier on in our March session that we had, the reality of the state giving us more money through ADM is probably not going to happen. Yeah.
Correct. Yes, sir. You're correct.
So shouldn't we say, as far as being financially fiscal responsible for our budgets and everything that we have to put together, that we have to reduce our budgets across every line item?
Well, that is the case, yes, sir.
Yeah.
That is the case.
So what is the school system doing to reduce the budget across every line item?
Well, what I told you already, we have been reducing expenditures as far as supplies, and we have been reducing expenditures across the board. I'm not quite sure what you're asking for, because from my point of view, I've added money back to the fund balance for 7 years in a row. This is the first year that I've ever added money back to the fund balance. And it's my job, as I told y'all, the commissioners before, that when something starts to go wrong, I start sounding the alarm.
Yeah.
Something's going wrong.
I can appreciate that, because my comptroller within my own business, I always tell them, you call balls and strikes. At the end of the day, you can't affect the number and what the number is.
Right.
You just report what the numbers are, and this is what it is. It's the operational team that affects the numbers. And so that's where I'm more getting at, as far as what are we doing operationally to reduce our numbers that we require to operate our school system? Because we're coming to the county and asking the county for almost $6 million. $3 million more than what we asked for in the previous year. And I'm rounding things up, it's like 2 point something. But, in order to justify something like that, which is a 40% tax increase on our citizens, we got to understand that the school system in and of itself is tightening their belt across every gambit, because the state says that you should be spending less money because they're giving you less money because you have less students. And I can appreciate the fact that you're losing some kids here and there to some other schools and all that. I can appreciate that. But if you look at the numbers and what they actually are, you're telling me that how many kids from this?
73.
Yeah, so it's what, 50?
So it's from 1411 to 1373, it was a 38.
Yeah. So at $10,000 a kid, that's, 30, let's just say $40,000. But you're asking us for 2.8.
Let me be clear to all the commissioners. $2.8 million is a planning resolution. This is not a budget resolution. In the past, we have come here with a capital outlay before I came here to the school system and asked for over $2 million in capital outlay. Did we get $2 million in capital outlay? Absolutely not. So So this $2.8 million, I've lived in this county, born and raised here. I know that the commissioners can't afford to give $2.8 million. The $2.8 million is a template, which is line item in my book that I gave to the commissioners, where if you see something that you really think there's a need for, it's easy to find into my book. Now, that was a decision that the board wanted to just visually put in front of the commissioners to see what the cost of education was. And, you know, when you look at it, it's daunting because it's basically double what we normally give. So obviously, it was more of a template just for you, the commissioners to see and to visually try to wrap your mind around how much education costs. Because we're all visual. I can sit here and talk numbers to the commissioners until your eyes glaze over. But visually, if you see something in front of you, you're striking. So now, I don't think anybody here thought that the $2.8 million was going to be something that was actually something the commissioners could do.
If I may just interject from the commissioner standpoint, and again, y'all, if I'm not speaking for everybody, absolutely say so. I appreciate that coming and saying, this ideally is what we need. My personal opinion, and again, for whatever that's worth, the line items and what is needed for the school should have been decided by the Board of Education, and that minimized budget should have been brought to the Board of Commissioners. Right. We are not the Board of Education, and we should not be deciding line by line what is most important for our schools. So knowing what a reasonable budget request would be from the commissioners should have been decided, in my opinion, from the Board of Education and then brought to us with that picked out, because this is not our role.
Correct. The process is, Chair Lady, that the Board of Education, they decide, they approve. And once they approve, and they make their decision, they present to the commissioners. Now, when they commit, they hand the planning resolution to the commissioners. It's just that. It's just a planning resolution. And I highlighted in green those specific requests on purpose. I didn't want it to get bogged down with the normal budget. So you can budget one of two ways. You can ask directly for what you know you're going to get, or you can ask for extended measures, have the Board of Education approve them. So if by chance the commissioners were to agree to fund one of those, it would already be approved. It doesn't mean that the commissioners are required to handle $2.845 million, because we're all aware of what that would do to the tax of each individual in the county.
Madam Chairman, may I say something?
Yes, sir.
I understand what you're saying, but we as a Board of Education do our budget and step process. Okay, for the last 3 years, you as commissioners have flat funded the Board of Education, which is the largest employer in the county. I took offense because I've served on this board for 27 years that people would take our large budget out of context, because that's what's happening. I didn't expect us to come in here and get $5 million, right at $6 million as a board member. I expected to exceed and do away with flat funding and allow you to come up with a dollar amount more than what was there, and then we come back to the board taking that dollar amount and adjusting it. Mr. Byrne, if we had not done any cost savings, then we would not have been able to increase fund balance. If you're not saving money and you're depleting your funds, then your fund balance is going to be negative. We have roughly $1.3 million. This board came and asked for an additional funding of $828,000 from a fund from the state that was light. It didn't come from the taxpayers. It didn't come from the commissioners. It was just your advice, okay? Mm-hmm. So the general public is under the impression that you, the commissioners, gave us $828,000 and you're going to create more tax burden. Just like the same mistake was made by people, not going to say their names, in the public and on the media, when we presented this budget to you. This is the total cost to educate children in Gates County, okay? And that is what is needed. It's not what we're going to get, but it's what is needed. We were simply identifying to the public and the citizens, this is the cost of the education today. And I took offense to that. I'm sorry I took offense to it.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that probably could have been worked out if we had these budgeting sessions that we had originally put together and wanted to work through and understand where the ask was coming from. Because I think a lot of that could have been discussed well before the budget was put together and presented to the county commissioners. Because at the end of the day, we all want the same thing. We all want our kids educated at the highest possible standards as we can give them here in Gates County. We all want that. We might go a different path to get there, but we all do want that. And I know that everybody sitting up here and all the staff of the school system, they all want that. The issue that we have here is that we continue to overspend money and we continue to come back to the county to ask for more. And we can't continue to go down this road. We have to figure out what we have to do together to do this.
Madam Chair.
Commissioner Craig, your mic.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm not sure, were you on the board when we did the whole 828,000? I can't remember, was I on one? I can't remember. I remember sitting there. When
I
we
was
were
down there.
talking about it, and so that was an emergency fund, is what that was. It's capital emergency fund. And we thought it was an emergency situation because the school was going into red. So it won't necessarily, your money. It was there for emergency, it was emergency. I just want to clarify that. I was part of that 828,000. I remember sitting there and saying, how much do you need? Mm-hmm. So in your current fund balance, we hadn't touched that 828. The current fund balance is 1.1328. You subtract that 8.28 from it, and that's what your real fund balance is. Okay, all right. So we hadn't saved that money technically. It's there for a reason. I just want to clarify on that. We keep hearing we funded the school the same for the last 3 years. I was just doing some quick math up here. 2015, we funded $2.708 million. And if this correct, we had average ADM was 1,633 students, which would translate to 1,658.29. Currently, we're at 1,411, and we funded $2.53 million, $2.953 million. So we're at 1,411. That would be $2,092.84 per student is what we funded. So technically, even though the amount has not gone up, with the ADM has gone down, we're actually funding more than we were in 2015 by these numbers. If we fund the same thing, let's see, at 1373 is what we're projecting for next year is $2,150.76. So that would be an increase of a little bit, not a whole lot, $50 a head. The budget that y'all have presented to us would go from $2,150 to $4,248. I'd love to give y'all $10 million. So explain the year that we're in, tax reevaluation. And the Board of Commissioners have decided we want to have a balanced year, not going up on taxes. So what that means is everybody's seen their tax bill went up by $100,000 or so. the tax value.
Property value.
Property value, I'm sorry. So what we're doing to, originally, like Mr. Sowers said last meeting, our current penny is worth $102,000. At the new evaluation rate, it's around $130,000. So we're gonna offset, we're paying 84 and a half cent now. Our new tax rate's gonna be hopefully around 65 cents. To take the burden off of it. It's a fair, there's an act for it, Mr. Sowers, what's the name of that act? Fair Tax Act, I forgot, there's a name for it.
Budget.
The adjustment, the
Oh, the
adjustment.
revenue neutral.
No, not the revenue neutral, but adjusting from 84 cent to 65 cent there's a statute or a name it's called, it's not.
Yeah, the actual statute where
it's
they
an
said
actual
you had to do a
statute.
revenue neutral budget. It was actual
So,
statute.
questions I have, I heard you say ESSER funding, I remember that coming up over the last couple of years. It's a federal fund. Are we funding teacher salaries out of the ESSER fundings?
No, sir. They had instructional coaches originally, but as far as in the heart of the ESSER funding 3 or 4 year cycle, they had instructional coaches and they had specific teachers at that time, but toward the end, you never put teachers in ESSER funding or federal funds because it was going to end. So anytime you had a teacher in there, you originally put them in ESSER funding, you let them know this grant will be ending probably in 2 or 3 years, so your job's not guaranteed. And if you were going to keep that person, you had to find somewhere else to put them.
Okay. Or, that being said, are we running into that issue now?
Well, there's no one in ESSER, as far as having people pull back, that was before my time as far as, because ESSER was ending when I came.
Okay, okay. All right, Chromebooks, computers, I hear all of that, and we were talking about doing 5 labs, and was the full 200,000 for that, or?
I believe it was 187.5.
187.5, all right, so we'll.
37.5 a lab.
37.5 a lab.
And then, the rest of it, Chromebook replenishment.
Okay, okay, so in essence, to make it easy, 5 labs at 40 grand, that'll give you 200,000. Is there a way we could do like 1 this year, 1 next year? I know that, I'm assuming they're all at end of life right now, because we hadn't, okay.
I would never turn any down.
I'm just wondering.
Cycled out, Mr. Smith would be the one expert as far as, because he knows when the cycle goes out, you know, you don't buy them all at one time, that way you just cycle them like you buy new.
So it sounds like we need a 10-year cycle. I'm asking, 10-year cycle, okay. Okay, then one other question I had. So, what's the average class sizes in our school systems?
Don't have that average.
Anybody, around about number 10 to 14 students per class? I know it ranges kindergarten.
The average is about 17.
17, okay.
They'll be average all over.
Yeah, that's all. Okay. So just the thing that came to mind when I saw all these new positions in green, thank you for doing that. And I could be totally wrong, I'm just thinking outside the box. Could we make maybe a slightly larger class size and take a teacher to do a different task if they're trained to do it? Maneuver.
Unless you look under the K-12 guidance for the state, I think that's very possible. And that has been one of the philosophies we've been trying to do, to make every, having a teacher with a class size of 10 is not really, from my point of view, I'm not, of course I look at thinking numbers, but I'm not getting my money's worth. I need a class that's bigger, so I don't have to hire 1 or 2 extra teachers. But that has been in the works in all of our budget discussions going forward, and it continues to be. You know, in other words, if you've got 13 here or 15 there or 10, can we take these 3 classes and possibly make them 2?
And then you can take that teacher and if they're qualified, be an instructional coach or EC or.
Just
that's-
reorganization, yeah.
Just the thought that came to my mind, you know. That's all the questions I have.
Okay.
Madam Chair. Thank you.
Commissioner Roundtree?
Yes, I have 2 questions, and 2 questions pretty much to the core of why we are all having this discussion. First one is the ADM question. The ADM question is this: what specific strategies are implemented that we can increase ADM? Because it's obvious, low ADM, low funding, that's going to affect the budget, that's going to affect funding. What strategies are we doing to increase ADM? And I know a lot of it have to do with economics. That's why I'm so conscious of economic growth in Gates County. Because when you don't have economic growth in Gates County, you're going to have an exodus. And when you have an exodus, you're going to lose pupils. So as commissioners, we got to keep that in the forefront of our mind, economic growth. But what role is education plan to increase ADM in Gates County? And then I have a second question after that response.
Well, my point of view, Commissioner Roundtree, is I can only answer half of that. Commissioners, like you said, I can't control the growth or I don't have any influence on that. But on the ADM side, you make the school, you create programs, like I was at Bertie, they have CTE programs that not every kid's going to go to college, right? Well, you don't want the kids who don't go to college to just do nothing. So if you have good CTE programs, you have to have something that the school system offers for kids who come in. And I'm losing kids to charter schools, and I actually closed the charter school down in Bertie. And if you walked in the middle of that charter school with 3 Rivers, there's no way in the world you realize the kids weren't getting education in that school at all. But the mindset was the charter school's got to be better than the public school. But that's not always the case. So you have to offer programs and make it, when families move in, you have to offer that program where parents look at the school system and say, well, what do you offer? You have CTE programs, what are your technology programs? That's how you get kids back in school. Now, as far as families, my theory is this, as commissioners, you got to have 1 or 2 things to have a successful county or government or anything related to a county business. You got to give people a reason to come, or you got to give people a reason to stay. You got to have at least one of them. If you don't have one, you're in bad shape. And that's one of those things as commissioners and Board of Education members, there needs to be a collaboration on both of those things because a good school system is also an attraction for families to come in. So when I think about that, it's a broad question because I can do half of it and try to budget. And if money gets better, like it's going to be eventually, you can offer teachers sign bonuses. You can offer them higher supplements. And that will draw teachers with teaching license to come in. Because a lot of teachers we get nowadays, are honestly, they're working on their teaching license, but they don't have it yet. So you're having somebody who's not a fully licensed teacher in the classroom, which is, that affects many areas of education as well. So I hope that answers some of your questions.
Yes. Second question is, it's just my opinion. I believe there's going to be a transfer from the Fed to the state as far as education funding. How would that affect Gates County Public Schools if that transfer takes place?
Now, we're talking about Title I funding. What transfer are we talking about, sir?
When the federal government transfer education to the states.
Now, there's been talk of that, like grant funding. We have yet to see that. there's an argument on both sides. There's an argument saying the Department of Education was not handling the money on the Title I or the grant funding like they needed to, so they were going to hand money back over to the states. The Title I funding right now is still coming. As long as we get what we have been allotted in the past, it doesn't really affect us. And if they cut us, obviously that's going to be bad because some of the regional counties depend on Title I funding, low wealth, a small county funding. Right now, so far, we are low wealth and small county funding has remained stable, or if not increased a little bit.
Thank you so much, Mr. Earl.
Mr. Manager,
Yes,
can I add to your first question a little bit?
yes, thank you.
A lot of parents want to come to Gates County, bring their kids to Gates County. I'm just writing things down off my head. It's the programs that we offer. It's the services that we provide. We have daycare, not many school districts have a daycare. Our sports programs are top notch. We have nice facilities. We have excellent teachers, certified, qualified, to teach in the classroom. We have a pre-K program, a Head Start program. Of course, Mr. Harrell stated the CTE opportunities. We have dual enrollment. We have college kids that are graduating with a college degree that me and Ms. Terry Rick went and saw at COA last week. We have partnerships with your community, Gates County Community Partnership. We have medical services. We have my Director of Student Services providing the safest school that you can enter and come and learn and be safe, which is conducive for learning. So all those things right there encompass why we have kids that want to come to Gates County and pay tuition to come to Gates County, which is big. If we want to come to a school district to pay, I think that's huge. So those are the things that, and that's just off the top of my head. There's many more. Ms. Casper, Ms. Lola Roundtree, Dr. Simpson could provide, but I just wanted to add that.
How many students do we have that come from that side that pay?
We're sitting.
Transfers we have.
What's the official number? We're probably right at 50.
50?
I'll get you the exact number. That's fluctuating a little bit.
And when they say they pay, I mean.
It's $2,100 a year.
$2,100.
We have to only be charged up toward our ADM allowance, county funded allowance.
Am I misremembering that it's capped right now? Is that right?
No, yes, we
Okay.
have to do a moratorium across the board on our students coming in with tuition because some of the students were costing us more.
Yeah, I
So
completely
we
understand.
put a flat moratorium that can only, if they were grandfathered in and they are teachers' children.
Okay. And then the students that were already here, but their siblings, those would be the grandfathered. Okay.
I have another question in consolidation. I know Dr. Watson is doing his consolidation report. How much, if he would come and say, you need to reduce elementary schools, what significant savings do you project that would give Gates County Board of Education?
Well, each elementary school utility lines is around $130,000 a year. Then of course you got, this is relative to where the teachers would go if you had to close a building, you move what you had in that building to the other building. But you have the administrative costs as well. You have the salaries for your teachers. I don't have those numbers in front of me, but I do know with Dr. Lawson, we have run utility numbers and the building utility numbers, electricity and water are around $120,000 to $130,000 for the elementary schools. And they're, age-wise, they're all real close to being the same age.
Okay. All right. I'm going to move down to Commissioner Forsyth.
Yeah, I just, with add on to that, I think when we talked to COA, they were telling us that maintaining one of the buildings that they were getting numbers from Showan County and others, that it was costing upwards of $450,000 for the total cost of maintaining buildings and trying to reutilize schools. So counting just the utilities, I think would be not wise to think of, because that's the only cost savings. But anyway, I wanted to retrace a couple things here, and I told several people that they told me, please be nice, and my intent's not to be rude, but I am very direct, and I think I'd like to make sure I understand this. In the past, from what was implied or talked about in this kumbaya session we're having, that in years past, y'all have come and done the same thing, given a big $2.9 million, hey, here's what we want, that's what's happened every year?
No, sir, not with me. Last year I gave my budget to be exactly what was given.
Okay. And have y'all in the past made phone calls to the public to tell them, hey, we're presenting this? I mean, because the impression I'm getting is that, oh, how dare us respond to this? This is business as usual, but it didn't seem at all business as usual.
I can't speak to what we did in the past.
Okay. Just want to make sure I understand this, that what we're doing here. Okay. As far as cost cutting, I appreciate Commissioner Berryman and Commissioner Craddock, y'all's questions about cost savings. I just got to ask, I mean, I'm hearing a lot of dancing around the subject, but it sounds like if we've dropped your numbers, say, something like 400 students in the X number of years, 400 out of 1,600, I mean, but in reality, if you take away the 50 from outside the county, we're down to 1,300 and a few. We've done no building closure, no limitation, no downsizing of administrative staff, because I just want to make sure I understand this.
And perhaps the question should not be directed to you, Mr. Harrell. Like, in all due respect, like finances, as far as decisions, you haven't been
Well, it's
here.
really
Like,
a
I mean, I would
management
just
question. I guess I should be asking the board chairman.
operational. Like, it doesn't all mean to be directed to you.
Yeah.
I know you're standing there, but yeah, if it's something that you need to defer to someone else.
I mean, Dr. Williams, is this something that you can answer as far as what's your plans to decrease costs within the school?
I think we're doing the best that we can.
Well, you haven't done anything.
We haven't closed the school. I mean,
Things that kind of,
15 years we've been going down.
you just can't close the school immediately. You just can't do that. There's a process that you have to go through. You know, that as well as I do with DPI. You have to have instructions and regulations and all those things that come into play.
So, Dr. Williams, could I ask you with a mic, if you could, just because it is being live streamed, since you're saying there are certain steps that have to go in place in order to consolidate the schools, could you explain briefly what those steps are for those that are listening? I just want to make sure it's broadcast through.
Yeah. When I say steps, first you have to have a study. And then with the study, which, as Mr. Harrell said, or I can't remember who it might have been me, which will come out on September the 1st, Dr. Jim Watson will provide considerations. And then when he provides those considerations, then the Board of Education, I'd say there'll be probably 4 or 5 considerations. And then the Board of Education will take those considerations and they'll go to the school communities and let them know, what the study revealed. And then from that point on, they'll make a decision. And when they make that decision, they'll come to the county commissioners and say, this is what we see that we could do to save money. So that's the process.
Okay, and that's regulation, like you cannot just shut a school down. These are state regulations, I'm assuming? Statutes, that's what I just want to.
Yeah, unless
Okay.
we're like Western.
I was going to say, and what constitutes an emergency? A hurricane, no financial, no, not a fiscal emergency. You're talking about a natural emergency? Because what would constitute fiscal emergency with this kind of request in the budget that we have? If we're talking emergency, what would it be, a fiscal emergency, something that constitute that?
I can't answer that question.
So the law doesn't say what type of emergency, correct?
I got my attorney here. Where did he leave? Mr. Lighty, would you know the answer to that question? What the law?
In terms of building closure, school closure?
If we had a hurricane or if we had something, a fire or whatever that would take a school out of operation. What?
Temporary basis or?
Yeah,
Permanent basis.
A permanent.
Is fiscal, is a fiscal emergency, is that constituted within the law that is currently written by the state?
That's not a basis for closing the school.
Okay.
Fiscal purposes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, returning to what I was after, it's more simplistic. Y'all got off on the technicalities. To me, it's like over a 15-year period, at what threshold was it going to intervene that management of the school system was going to say, oh, we need to do something? Because to be quite blunt, we asked y'all to do a study. Nothing was going on. What threshold would it take for as managers of the school system to say, wow, we need to look at this. You say you have to have a study, but to me, Dr. Watson, PhD, Dr. Williams, PhD, doing the study, this doesn't seem like rocket science to me, that somewhere along the line, we've been on a great big downslope, and somebody need to say, we need to take steps.
Let me talk about that, Commissioner Fulbright. From 20 years, we were sitting around 2000, probably over 2008 again.
Yep.
We fluctuated on a downslope from that to where we are now. My first year, we were sitting at 1466 for our ADM. I found out real quick that was our line of demarcation. We could hold the line and break even at 1466. But the next year, of course, we lost 50,000 kids, which is $500,000. And of course, I immediately let the board know where our funding was being lost. And we had to address the situation. And so they know, they have been, they were told, and they have taken the appropriate action now. Like Dr. Williams said, there is a process for this. You can't just say, hey, we're closing the school down next year, by law, you just can't do it. Now, speaking to your point, sir, you know, on that downward slope, my previous former employment, I experienced the same thing. And so that conversation could have been had earlier, but if the Board of Education, you wouldn't know that unless they were kind of talking with the numbers, so to speak. And it doesn't take, like you said, a rocket scientist to figure out the downward slope's not a good thing, but they don't know that line is. That is a job for me.
Okay.
In the 1466, that was a line where we could break even and hold our own. I could put probably a little bit of money in the fund balance, but beyond 1466, no. And that's why the additional requests are being made now. And no disrespect to anybody out there. I think everybody in here is well aware of the funding that you can and can't provide. Anything extra, even if it's like Commissioner Pratt said, even a mobile classroom for 1 year, even if it's just one, is better than nothing. But we're making appropriate measures of what we have to do so we don't get into a situation where DPI comes in and takes the school over. It's just the process, you can't do it overnight.
I don't understand what you just described as a process. What's the process?
It's a state law that gives you a process. You just can't shut a school down.
Well, I understand you just can't, but what's that process that you're describing to me? Is it hiring a contractor, having him tell you to turn it down? That's the process, or?
It was,
I think what he's referring to is we have one school that is identified as low performing. And if it's low performing this year, it's a possibility that the state could come in and take over that school. Or we as a board could come together and give a plan to the state and the state approve it. I think we're missing something here. We as the school system can't grow with students unless we have economic growth. What if we, as your board and this board doing to form economic growth? That's what we need to be looking for now. Not putting down what we've done wrong and what you haven't done wrong. I could sit in here and do the same thing about your board, but I'm not going to do that to you. But it's the same practice and the same theory. Mr. Pratt said something about he improved and gave additional money. But the problem was he didn't look at it in the theory as the cost of education of a student each year, and that goes up extremely. AC program, students that have needs. I had a child that was an EC. I had to go outside of the county because we didn't have the funds in the school system to support my child and to let my child be successful. That's a disgrace. I'm sorry.
and I agree. I have children. The reason we homeschooled so long was I had a teacher tell me that for the disabilities my kids had were not something that the schools could support, and if I could homeschool them, it would be better off to do so.
You're doing the right thing as a parent.
So, and this year, I have not had the time, and we have put them in public schools, and it has been beautiful. They have been embraced, and we have loved every moment of the process. And I understand what you're saying about the boards going back and forth. like I said at the beginning of the meeting, my personal opinion, regardless of what has happened to date, we're here now. We can't represent anything that happened on boards before us. You can't represent anything that happened on boards before you, our different makeup as a board. Right now, regardless of everything that has been done by grants or by error from you or us, we are here today. And today, we cannot fund $5.8 million. And we have to come up with what we're going to do and how we're going to. And that's,
Nobody expected you.
We didn't expect you to do that.
Can I?
so,
I mean, that's just unreal.
So-
that people could think that we were gonna expect y'all to fund that.
so in the purpose of this today, like I said, to have the budget presentation, we were each going to ask questions, give each of you the opportunity to come back, say what we want. And I would like to personally say, we would like to hear from each of you and not just the staff. No, nothing against them, but we're the ones that have to work together in the end to approve the budgets. What you have approved to present to us and then what we have to approve to go back as far as what's going to be funded and what's not, or what funding you have to figure out what to do with it. So I'll let Commissioner Forsythe finish with his questions.
I guess
have a
the next
few.
thing is, yeah, we had, y'all, you gave us the list and we weren't supposed to take it as a real list or something, but can y'all as a school board tell us which of these things are y'all's highest priorities then? I mean, because there's a whole smorgasbord list. Could you tell us what your list is as the school board? These are the things in this order that we think are most important. Maybe out of 30 items, pick the top 5 in descending order of importance.
Would it be appropriate to take like a 10-minute recess and allow them to look through and see what items they feel are the most appropriate to move forward with if we were to fund? All right, so if I can get a motion to go into
Well,
recess?
I mean, I'm
Okay.
not hearing them nod their head though, Ms. Chairman. If they want to do that, they may not want to do that. I'm not sure.
Well, a couple of them nodded, so I was, yeah.
2,
Yeah, I mean,
okay. All right, just didn't want to push y'all to do something you may not want to do, so.
no, you
Well, I mean, we
won't do
can
that.
recess our board. If they're going to communicate together, we can
Okay.
just allow them, so. All right, so I'm going to make a motion to recess. Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? All right, we are in recess. right, so we can get a motion to come out of recess.
So moved. Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. All right, it's approved. We are back in session. I'm going to defer back over to Commissioner Forsyth. He was in the midst of his questions when we broke.
Yeah, I guess the next one I kind of would like to ask about, I'm very concerned about us utilizing funds accurately, and I know I'm sticking my nose in where it doesn't belong, but that's just the nature, I think, of being a good public steward of funds. One of the comments made was that $800,000, no taxpayer paid it. And I wholeheartedly disagree. If it came from state taxes or local taxes, either way, it was taxpayer funded money. So I want to make sure that's clear from my perspective, that saying that $800,000 that was funded a couple years ago somehow appeared as from magic is not accurate. It was taxpayer money, and we're still stewards of it regardless whether it's locally collected or at state level. Having said that, how many positions at this central office are actually mandated or, I guess, by standard from the state? How many are there that we're supposed to have versus how many we actually have?
I can't answer that.
He's asking how many's mandated.
Yeah, versus how many we actually have. I mean, do we have an idea? Yeah, I mean, the two versus how many said we're supposed to have versus how many we actually have.
I'm thinking,
Some of these positions, Commissioner Forsyth, they may not be mandated, but multiple jobs being done by one person in all central office today.
Okay.
So that's one of those things I just allow. We have my HR director, we have a DC position, and she monitors as well. And in most districts have DC directors. So I think the central office, comparatively speaking, compared to to other districts, we still have one of the small central offices around. Now, numbers-wise, as far as people.
So since you brought that up, I guess, talking about, number of people and doing other jobs, I mean, quite frankly, over the last couple of years, when we've had our results back and our schools have been less than perfect, we fire principals and move them somewhere else. So if we're paying a principal salary and we take him out of a position as a principal and put him in the main office or somewhere else, do we keep paying him at that same principal salary when we choose to move him after 2 years? Because I got a list here that shows we've had 25 different principal changes in the last 10 years or so, 12 years or so. That's a lot. And compared to the neighboring counties, as you pointed out, I asked a couple of them and they're like, my God, no, most of our principals have been in place 6 to 7 years. And it looks like to me we changed, the elementary schools and the middle schools have changed almost without fail every 2 years. So I'm just wondering if we move them out and we take them to the main office, are they still continuing to get principal salary, or do they divert back to what they were before they were principal?
The most recent ones, they did not go to central office, but a lot of those every 2 years are because of the scores. If a principal is not able to lead the school, lead the teachers, and make the scores, we're not going to leave them there. And so I think with some of that, if you'll go back and look and see where those declines started, you will see that. At least 3 that I can name off the top of my head, but I don't want to do that publicly. But I understand what you're saying about people moving around.
It just seems like every single school's being held accountable every single time. It doesn't seem like that's individual schools. That seems like the system to me. That's not the individual principals. We're sort of changing around the deck chairs on the Titanic. We need to, anyway, that's just my perspective. I mean,
Do we have someone now that was a principal that is at central office?
I'm not sure. I don't know who's there.
We
Yeah.
don't, and I don't remember what.
And Jeremy Wright was a principal.
Jeremy Wright was a successful principal.
Okay, so you have 2.
He was very successful. He was not moved to central office because he was not a good.
Oh, I agree. I loved him as a principal, which,
just
you may
say
not
that.
realize that, but yeah.
But some of those that did not come to central office, they're no longer.
Okay,
with
I'm
us.
just asking,
No, I'm
to me,
just
I'm trying to get a
trying to-
sense of
Okay.
the management, how we go forward and how the budget could potentially be saved.
Yeah.
The question.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay.
You just can't, if you have a principal that is not performing, you're gonna have to move them. And by,
Right.
when I say performing, I mean the scores, but importantly, y'all think back, these kids in the elementary school that are just beginning testing now are our COVID students. That's one reason I think we're seeing a lot of lower scores now. Not the only reason, I'm not saying that, I'm not blaming COVID on it, but I'm saying you have to take that into consideration. And I think I think the mentality of the board was, we know that we've got to do extra things. That's one of the things that Ms. Casper was talking about with the high dosage tutoring that starts in the fall. We don't wait till the spring to see who's academically behind, because most of those kids who are academically behind in January are probably academically behind when we bring them in. So that's that would be a wonderful thing to have, to know that we're going to be able to hit them. But I just think that I don't think we're the only school that's short of money now. I don't think we're the only school system that is searching for money to do the things we need to do. You posted something just recently about
this
schools that were in
morning.
financial difficulty. They were all big schools, but I think your little schools sometimes, your little systems sometimes feel it more than your big ones. And like like in elementary school, when you take one teacher, when you maybe get rid of some teachers, like the 5th grade, I remember going to, when I was a principal, you have 3 tested courses in the 5th grade. And it was the hardest thing I could do when I was teaching, to make one of my teachers have 2 tested classes. They had science and English, or they had science and math. And it was one of the hardest things I did, because, as much as we don't grade the teachers on their scores, the state does. And when you lower your teachers and have to put them, lump them together, so you've got one teacher teaching 3 tested scores, that you just can't do that. So I think we do need to work together, because I'm sure there's wisdom you can give us, but I think knowing how the school system works from the very basic bottom is something that we all could know better. But anyway, I'm preaching, I'm over.
Well, I guess following up, I'm sorry.
Gates County is the armpit of the east. I mean, really, we don't have a lot to offer for somebody to move here. That's not surprising any of y'all. So when you put out a notice that you're looking for a principal, you get people that have one thing, that passed a course that says you can be a principal. That doesn't mean they have any leadership ability at all. That doesn't mean that they made 100 on the test. That just means they got by with a passing score. So when they come here, we have to hire them, because we have a very limited pool of people that apply. We're not getting the cream of the crop in a whole lot of cases. Therefore, if they don't cut it, we have to move them somewhere else, either to another system or to a different spot in our system. So that's some of the movement you've seen is just big in Gates County. I mean, I love Gates County as much as anybody in here, but I do face facts. You got to be happy with going somewhere else for entertainment, somewhere else for a nice restaurant, somewhere else for a movie, somewhere else to buy a car. Anything you want to do, you got to go somewhere else. That's the nature of living in Gates County. It is not attractive for the most of the general population. So that contributes to us having trouble getting principals that we can keep, because they've got to perform or they've got to get aggravated.
No, and I think we definitely understand that. No, the only question, like I said, we're brainstorming here together, trying to figure out how to cut budget things. His was just asking if a principal moves from a principal to another position, because they were not doing it, was the pay kept at the principal rate, or were they given a new rate?
I can answer that.
Yes.
No, ma'am. The rate is set by the state.
Okay.
And if they're not being a principal, then they do not
Perfect.
They don't get paid.
Perfect. So that's not an area that would need to be cut. Great. Thank you.
Yes, that would have been a great answer. That would have been a great answer right off the bat when I asked.
Okay.
I have one other comment.
Yes, sir.
Somebody said we lost 400 students. Since 2015, I checked, we lost 253, which is
Okay.
15% of what the student population was in 15.
Okay.
$1 in 2015 is equivalent to $1.33 today. So what have we done to cut? We have taken 15% of the students away, but we took a third of the money away. So that tells you what we've done with some of the money. We didn't do it by cutting people, we just had to do more with less. And I think that's an important consideration for y'all to have.
So y'all did mention about me posting something. I'll point out of the 100 counties in North Carolina, I was easily able to find that 17 of them are all having to cut budgets. Actually, some of them are starting to do downsizing of staff, et cetera, et cetera. So that's a significant number. So, I mean,
And I'll say, like, from my perspective, we have a very workable thing if we're working together. I know there's another county in the state that is a $42 million deficit right now at their school board. So I'm going to not say that 3 million is nearly, in question, is nearly as bad as a $42 million deficit. So we have ground to work on. We just have to do it more together. So.
Okay. You want to hear what we came up with?
And we are working from, just to make sure, this additional funding request list, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so we will.
The superintendent's additional funding.
Superintendent additional funding in the new packet we received today. So let everybody get there before we.
This is very difficult to do. Very, very difficult because we truly labored over this. And one of the things that we decided we didn't have to do was go with a new arts teacher, which will mean another arts teacher is going to have to be doubling or tripling their work. So just keep that in mind, okay? That, you know, we picked them, and I'll give them to you, and just, we'll go there. The number one that we picked that we had to have was technology, Mr. Smith. And we talked about the number two, the low performance support. I think with the scores we made last year, and with some schools that have never ever been low performing in this district that are now low performing, I think we're going to have some low performance support, meaning reading coaches. I think the reading coaches is probably one of the more important things. EC, because the cost of EC is going up, and we're probably not going to be seeing much help from the state.
And federal funds will drop from the EC.
Right. And Mr. Wright talked to you about a health counselor or middle school counselor. I think that's very important because our kids at the middle school either need a counselor there all the time or they need a nurse, because middle school is a very difficult time in your life. You'll find that out next year. But it's very difficult, and I say that because I think even for our kids that are wonderful, it's the rude awakening when you get to middle school. So that counselor or health personnel is greatly needed. And then we did the instructional coaches. You know, in every school, there's a teacher there that is so good and so dynamic. If she could have the time with the rest of the teachers in that school to show them the things that she does so that these other teachers can do it also, that would make a lot of difference. And we've not had that in a long time.
That's what my sister does.
And it makes so much difference. I mean, we've got one teacher that I don't think has ever scored under 80 in the grades. She could just get in there and show them how to do it. It's usually higher. It's usually closer to 90 that her scores are.
Okay.
I think those are the five that can make the most difference at this time, I think. Now, I may change my mind when I get home and have peace and quiet and go over this list, as may all of us. But I think
and I'll say, like, I understand it was difficult, but thing with us looking at it, trying to figure out a number going forward, we didn't know what would be top priority. And that was where we needed to come together, was having you guys do the hard decision so that we can now look at this and make a hard decision on what can we do out of this. But I do appreciate it.
I'm not speaking on behalf of the board.
Mike.
I'm not speaking on behalf of the board, but I understand completely what y'all were asking for. I get it. If you don't ask for it, you won't get it.
Exactly.
I get it. But what I would like to see is what you have to have, and then the other part of what we would like to have.
Right, and have it
that
separate.
would
Separated,
bring
right.
the most benefit to Gates County schools.
Yeah.
That's what, and show us the difference. This is what we got to have.
Yeah. I
This is what we
agree.
would like to have.
I
and I
haven't
think
finished mine.
I agree.
I still haven't finished.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Something else.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
A couple of other items just to try and get clarity here. How about the number of certified teachers that we have? Out of all the number of teachers we have, how many are certified? Is there a percentage or a number y'all have? 120 certified teachers out of how many? Out of the total number of teachers?
Out of the total number of teachers,
All of our teachers hold a license to teach.
No, I know personally there's not several.
Provisional license, but they do hold a license issued by the state.
Okay, how many are fully certified, not provisional, if I have to reword that?
Out of that 120, we may have 10 that are not fully certified.
So what do y'all do? Do y'all have a program to get them education, get them to the point of being certified? I think,
The state mandates what they have to do to become.
We have a good teacher support or teacher support program that helps to coach them through the process and the courses to become certified in the area that they are teaching for us.
In addition, they have mentors that are a buddy that pairs with them within the school in order to assist them as well. So there are supports for our student teachers.
how about your principals? If you hire in these new, young, inexperienced principals, where do you have a program rather than us just flushing them? Do we have a ability? I mean, for me, I'm routinely recruiting people to do utilities work in small counties is hellacious, to be honest. And so we typically, our motto is we try to train them up. We get inexperienced, we train them really well, build them up, their experience gets good, and they actually end up moving on, but they become our recruiter for, hey, you want to go in here and learn, you can work 3 or 4 years with these guys and get an important job. That's our methodology. So having teachers, or principals, you hire them in new, not doing so good, they fail, you kick them out. I mean, I'm not saying that's exactly what you're doing, that's what I heard. I'm saying, can we?
The state mandates how you handle that through an action plan.
Okay.
You don't just do it, Lord. You have to do X, Y, Z, and a myriad of different things. So,
Before, to train them, or there's a
if
myriad of.
someone is not doing their job properly, and the people have been working with them, mentors or central office people, if they're not doing it, a plan of action is developed for that person. And they have to follow that plan of action, and if they do not follow that plan of action after all these years of people working with them, then they can be let go. And there's no,
All right.
But to answer your question, before we get to that point, they each get mentors, so like I mentor new principals, and so is Ms. Casper, so we meet monthly to talk, well, we meet more than monthly, but that's what the plan has, to talk about things, and Ms. Casper and Dr. Williams are currently putting on a leadership academy.
So we have a couple of things that are in place. Obviously, this is my first year in the position, but in coming in, what we have done is we have we have monthly principal meetings to begin with all of the directors in order to give them that support to understand mandates and other things that are coming from the state. So if I need to discuss the arts mandate, then they understand where we're going with that. We also do principal PLCs, which are professional learning communities. They come together. We've had 3 at this point throughout this school year. Again, I'm learning and going to a lot of PD myself, so we haven't been able to have as many, but it will be a functioning program next year where they come together and they collaborate as a team. This particular year, we did learning learning walks within our schools where they, as a group of 5, went into classrooms, observed, and then came back and talked about what they saw, what were the positives, what were the things that they would like to see change. So we've done that. Their final PLC was working on, sorry, off the top of my head, I can't remember, but we look at topics that are pertinent to what they need to be successful as a principal. Additionally, we have an Aspiring Leaders program that we've implemented. This is not something new. It used to be done prior to COVID. I actually was part of it myself when I was an assistant principal, but what we've done is we've brought that back for any person in our district that aspires to be a leader, whether it's a principal, an assistant principal, or you just want to be a team leader in your building. So we had a cohort that met monthly this year, and there were 14 that were in the cohort.
You know, there's something else too, maybe you want to elaborate, because you know Dr. Shirley France, but speak on the NC Papa.
Yeah, so NC Papa, which is the state principal preparation, it works to prepare principals and assistant principals. They have a program called Future Ready Leaders. We've had 2 of our current principals that have been through that program. They have aspiring principals. We have 1 current principal and myself who have been through that, and we have 2 that are currently being recommended for a 3-year principal academy. So we are looking outside the county as well as seek support in order to help our principals be successful.
Yeah, I appreciate that. That's very informative, y'all's comments. I appreciate that a whole lot. I just, to go along with that, just so you know, a friend of mine who was a principal for a while, one of his comments to me set with me very well. He said, you know, a principal can be successful and can be unsuccessful depending on a lot of things. If they have a student body that's just challenged from nature of where they come from, they're only going to be so successful. But even if you got that and you've got really good teachers, you can still be sort of successful if you're a good leader, if you get support from your management. But if you have any of those components broke, it's almost impossible for the principal and the school to be successful if they don't have a good group of teachers. That's why I was asking about the number that are certified, that clearly know what they're doing. And then having the student body. We're stuck with the student body we've got, but we can optimize what we can do with what we've got. So I appreciate that a lot. I mean, that tells me a lot that I wouldn't have known about trying to make the folks successful, not just poking them in the eye if the school doesn't do well.
If I can also address our teachers. So we have operated for years with part-time instructional coaches, which means those teachers were accepting a stipend to do something additionally, but managing a full class load at the same time. So to be able to get out of their rooms and go observe teachers was not possible. When I accepted this position, thankfully last year they had created 2 instructional coach positions. Now both of those ladies share an additional responsibility. They wear another hat, which limits their ability to be in classrooms completely as much as we would like. But we are using them as well to build support among our teachers. So we are looking to be as innovative as we can with what we're doing.
What you got? One last item. I'll swing this. Go swing back around, and then I'll shut up. But talked about very much the constraints of closing schools and how we got to where we're at. And I guess I'm beating a dead horse a little bit, but I just want to point out, you know, totally closing a school, I understand there's some process involved, and it sounds like the attorney was implying that it can't be just based on urgent financial need. But have y'all considered, or do y'all consider, is there a process in place where y'all say, hey, maybe we simply don't take K through 2 at this school this next year because we don't have enough student body, and we're going to push all those K through 2 students to the other 2 elementary schools to push up the population in those. You aren't closing the whole school. You're maybe not utilizing a couple of grades. And the teaching positions, I heard a couple different numbers in your work session earlier I listened to. I thought y'all said you had 6 vacancies, K to 5 coming up, but then in this report it seemed like they were saying only 4. But in capitalizing on something like that, pushing the numbers, the classes together, you could potentially save, it seems like, some teaching positions, and you don't end up having to worry about laying off people. You don't have firings. There's no implied repercussion that somebody's getting done. You simply just don't backfill and reallocate. Do y'all have a process in place to consider something like that?
I think when Dr. Watson gives our considerations in August, we'll be able to look at some things that you just mentioned about, he's wanting to know, or he's had conversations with principals, how many classrooms are in at TS school?
Right.
How many classrooms are empty at Buckle, and how many classrooms are empty at Gatesville Elementary School. And then also bring in, the department piece. And then we got to talk about attendance, our attendance zones. So what you're talking about, like you just said a little while ago, no, it's not rocket science, but once we get all this stuff together, then that's how things will start moving a whole lot faster.
Right.
It seems like right now, everything's just moving slow, and we're just standing still, and we're not doing anything. But once that comes out, done work, I can see some good things happening quickly.
So y'all should be able to then use the study he has and how he conducts it. For future years, you can go back sort of and update it yourself and say, here's the things he looked at, and make follow-up assessments in year 2, 3, 4 on afterwards. And it shouldn't be just having to stand back and wait for the pro to come in and assess us. Okay.
All right.
Beat that horse.
Thank you, sir. I was just doing a little bit of quick math here. If you give me just 1 second, and just to put publicly that moves, going to just these 5, would move the request for increase from last year's funding up $830,000 versus the $2.8 million. So just to put us the new number here that is being requested with just those top 5 priorities. Okay, so most of...
I will add that it's not in their top 5 is the school lunch program.
And I was getting ready to hit on that, yeah.
In that,
we
regardless of the rest.
So, and I'm going to tell you, our heart, and I know this from previous meetings and the different work sessions, our heart 100% is to provide the school nutrition, regardless of anything else. If the students are not fed, they're not going to perform, and it's not fair, and it's their health, their mental health, their ability, mental, behavioral health across the board, which is going to affect their classroom and is going to affect their peers in the classroom. SRO Lassiter had shared when he joined us in our joint session, he feels personally that just having good meals would help improve the classrooms. So that there, yeah, it was definitely in our mind already too. We obviously are not going to have a number tonight. We're, yes.
I do not mean to interrupt, but on those numbers, could you make sure, I just want, because our figure came out a little different, I just want to make sure you said.
Maybe I highlighted the wrong one. 830,000. Where am I at?
Like number by number, like dollar?
Go ahead, yeah, that's fine.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Ryan.
Let me put this right here, because I've written all of mine. Low performing district supports 240.
Mm-hmm.
Instructional coaches 160.
Mm-hmm.
School health personnel 160. Devices for the classroom 200,000.
Okay, did we say school health personnel or guidance counselor? I thought you had said guidance counselor.
That's what I thought.
We slashed it because we weren't sure. Sometimes
Okay.
like
in
have a
this area,
guidance
we want a guidance
counselor, but we may not be
counselor,
able to
Okay.
hire one.
but we may not be able to find one. So, yes, and I guess you can put that 88.
Okay.
Yes.
The
The exceptional children's funding.
150.
150. Yeah, that would be the difference right there.
And then the tech would be the 200. So
Yes. Yes.
830 with the differential being a potential 80,000 depending on health personnel or guidance counselor.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's fine.
I have a couple
Okay.
questions.
Yes.
When are you going to present the budget? And when are you going to have public comment?
I'm going to turn that to our county manager.
I'll be presenting the budget Monday night, June 2nd.
And will there be
Sick,
public
get, it's a regular meeting.
It'll be a
yes.
regular meeting, so there will be
It's not
public
a
comment at the
public
beginning
hearing,
and the
but there
end.
will be public comment.
The public hearing will come later.
When you're closing the school, you're required to have public comment.
Mhm.
When we go to close the school, you as commissioners and we as board members are going to be attacked by the taxpayers and the citizens.
And that's okay. We were elected to be attacked and to make the hard decisions. So sometimes we have to do that, and it's quite all right. Yeah, I encourage people that come to me with complaints to come to the podium and call them out, whether it be against me or the board. Things should be done publicly and transparently, which is why we added a second comment period and loosened the reins on how to get on the list. It's important that the public comments be heard.
Madam Chairman, I would also like to add that as far as the public that I've had a chance to engage with as I discuss these ideas, they are clamoring for it.
Same with my
They've seen this
experience.
coming for years and don't
Yeah.
understand why we haven't already done it.
Yep.
So I think we're going to see the Gates County citizens are going to be very supportive of this and understanding of where we got to go.
Is that the citizens or the parents?
Both.
And I've had I've had a few concerns raised by parents and / citizens, because, I mean, if they're parents, they're also citizens, but, I've had a few concerns raised, but when we discuss them and their concerns are acknowledged and we talk about the reasoning, I haven't had anyone walk away with a negative connotation from my conversations.
I think the key to doing any of this is communication.
Right.
And having communication with the public. And I want to say that this is what we need to be doing more of, because I don't know about
Yes.
you all, but I think there was a whole lot of education that was going on and understanding
Yes.
one another in here, from the Board of Commissioners to the school system. And I
Right.
think that's communication, talking to one another, educating one another, because you all are doing something we don't know anything about, and we're doing something that you all don't know the nuances of. And so I think us doing this is so important, and it not just be at a budget time. I think communication takes care of a whole lot of things, and I think the community seeing that and knowing that we can work together and come together on things will make all the difference in the world when we have that guidance from the study, and we can have conversations about it. We can talk amongst ourselves, and that will help relieve some of the fears for the rest of us.
I agree, and just being upfront and transparent, and I think having it streamed, letting people be a part to being able to view those kind of things are important. So I'm thankful for today. I had a few questions written down, and I'm trying to flip through. I think most of mine were already asked by them, but I want to make sure I get through the rest of it here and just make sure I didn't have anything else jotted down, because I will be the one at home tonight going, oh no.
So I agree 100%. I agree 100%. You know, this should be a collaborative effort. We're a small rural community, and it takes both of us boards to succeed.
Right.
You're teaching the future of this county. 1, 2, 3. What school did you graduate from? At one time, I think it was our last board, every one of the commissioners had graduated from Gates County Schools.
Yes.
So you're training and teaching the future of Gates County. And it's the truth, you know. So we do need to work together, and we need to meet more often. I really
I agree. We had mentioned quarterly.
Yes.
So, no, I agree completely. No, that was all of my questions. And I think just kind of the takeaway, I will apologize to you for everything that may have come across offensively. There was concern, as I stated last week in the meeting. We have personal relationships with a lot of you. We live in a small town. We are not Raleigh, where we can walk out of here and we're not going to see each other until we decide to come together again. We're at ballparks together. We're at schools together. We're going to see each other. Personal relationships have nothing to do with professional conversations. And when we had our citizens coming to us, we had to acknowledge it from our table when we hadn't had that discussion with you yet. We owed it to our citizens that elected us to answer their questions and to address it publicly, even before this, because they had been expecting it that night. So that was why we followed through with what we did, even though we didn't have our meeting last week, was we were trying to address the concerns of those that were coming to us. But I do apologize, and I do understand if it came across offensively. So at this point, though, I think that we have a modified number, we have a modified proposal, and at this point, I think, would be ending discussions to walk away and everyone to come up with more questions that we didn't ask here today. And we'll have more information when the budget proposal comes out to the county next week and more discussions at that time, unless anyone from the school board or the Board of Commissioners has any final comments.
I do have a final comment. I want to thank my colleagues, Board of Commissioners, and I also want to thank the Board of Education. And just as Mrs. Roundtree stated, collaboration, working together, and communications is key. And that was accomplished today.
Yep.
That was accomplished today. So we're moving in the right direction for our citizens as well as our students. So I want to thank each and every one of my colleagues here today.
I agree. Thank you. Okay, well, let's see how we have it listed here. It just says adjourn, no particular order. So if you all want to adjourn, and then we can follow suit.
Have a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? We are adjourned.
All right, I'll entertain a motion.
Motion moved for adjournment.
All right, and a second.
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye, and we are adjourned. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Yes.